So with Brea Beal, KDot, I was listening to a lot of podcasts, and with the draft podcast, they was doing the draft grades, and they're doing the winners of the draft and the losers of the draft. And we're not going to do that. I seen Brea Beal on every podcast, KDot, that I listened to mentioned as the loser of the draft. But if we did do a losers of the draft, I feel like every team that passed on her should feel like a loser in the draft, except for Minnesota, who obviously passed on her, but then they ended up drafting her. I feel like with Brea Beal, a lot of teams got in their own way with scouting her, like with Haley Jones, because they're talking about the offense and everything. But what about when you got a player with a pro-ready body and pro-ready defensive tactics are ready to excel in this league? Y'all passed on that because y'all want more shooting. I feel like the Fever could have definitely drafted him. Now, they got Grace Berger. I feel like they got two of the same type of players. I think that you could have put Brea Beal right there. That fits in with what you want, Lynn Dunn.
And I know we're talking about Minnesota right now, but just to jump the gun right quick with the Indiana Fever, that's the reason why they didn't get the A+. For me, just from, if you're looking at it just from a overall standpoint, the perfect draft, a premier post, a dynamic defensive guard, and a premium shooter. That's when I look at the draft. If you have an opportunity to draft 3 players, you want a shooter, you want a defender, and you want a premier post. They got the premier post in Aaliyah Boston. At 7, I thought that Brea Beal would have been almost the perfect get because, again, Brea Beal complements a lot of players. People fail to mention her playmaking ability and her ball handling on the offensive end. She breaks down a lot of defenses and is very underrated at that because it's always talked about for her defense, right? She's always talked about on the defensive end. But again, with her breaking the defense down in her ball handling ability to go downhill, she has the knack of being able to pass the ball out to shooters. And if you have that in Indiana, I just felt like think about this, right? If you have a lineup of Erica Wheeler, who is a pretty good mid-range shooter, who can come off of those elbow curls. You have Lexi Hall, who's proven herself to be a great 3-and-D player. And congratulations to her on finishing top 4 in AU and Defensive Player of the Year AU, right? You also have Nalissa Smith, who's actually really good at shooting on the outside as well. So she's not going to clog the paint with Leah Boston. Like when you have Brea Beal breaking the defense down and passing it out to the shooters, that's just as good. And I'm not saying that Grace Berger isn't that as well. I understand why they picked Grace Berger at 7. The Indiana product. She's basically quote unquote staying home. I get that. But when you have that premium defense in Brea Beal and that playmaking ability, I felt like that was the spot that she could have easily been in. And unfortunately, they went with Grace Berger. It's not unfortunate that they went with Grace Berger, but the idea of them getting a plus in this draft would, to me, especially in the first round, would have been Aaliyah Boston at 1, obviously, and then Brea Beal or Letitia Mehier at 7. That's my thing.